Good evening, everyone. Nice to see your faces. Thank you, Amanda, for that godsend. I guess it's a song. It's sort of like rain or something very old. Thank you. I've been noticing, particularly this time, the way that our musicians play music. The music itself is pretty amazing, but it's what happens afterward, the silence, the quality and the depth and the spaciousness of the silence that happens afterward that's just kind of mind-blowing, actually. You can just soak in it. So thank you, musicians, wherever you're scattered. 2, 3, 4, 5. We're flush with musicians. So it feels like we're pretty deep in this thing now, whatever it is. I remember, must have been here actually, the first time I was going to be head of practice, Alison Atwood wasn't going to be here. And so I was just asking her, well, what's it like to be head of practice? And she said, it's like riding a great beast. And sometimes it's fun and it behaves, and other times you think, you're going to get bucked off, but you just stay in relationship to this large animal. And retreat somehow just does that. It's this alive, no matter what we think it is or is going to do or how it's going to go or what we're going to get, or at a certain point it just kind of takes off on its own legs and you just get to go for the ride. I like that. And really been noticing the intimacy of silence. Like when the silence isn't carrying anything in it, like all the awkwardness or anxiety or any of the things that we usually impregnate the silence with that makes it all like, please God, someone do something, someone say something. But when that all falls away, it's an amazing thing to just behold. And I was noticing yesterday, sitting with someone, all of a sudden it just fell over us and it was like we fell into this little piece of eternity. And I could tell it just filled our hearts. You couldn't tell anything else at that moment. And then we both kind of looked and went, oh, that's nice. But then that starts to spread out, where you see the silence is in the trees, and it's in the flowers, and it's in that same great silence just starts to be in everything, no matter what's happening. And it's a very healing silence. It just sets your whole being at ease. Nothing seems outside. I was thinking of one of the koans today about you swallow the whole universe. You can just feel everything is inside me right now. Everything is shared somehow. And you look at someone's face and you just think, oh yeah, that. And I was noticing, I guess what I want to talk about tonight, was noticing as I went down the hill last night, because I was back here a little bit later, I walked down, getting very good exercise, walking up and down to my room. It was just starting to get dark, and I thought, oh, dark. There's not much dark here. When we're here in the morning, it's light. When we sit at night, it's light. I thought, no wonder that dream I told you at the beginning, the retreat was in Helsinki. It's in Helsinki, it's 19 hours of sunlight in June. I thought, yeah, that's kind of how it feels. And mostly I was noticing the effect on my psyche of that. It's interesting. I'm a dusk sort of creature. I like a little more softness and dark and mystery and all sorts of things. And I was noticing almost a desire to crawl in something to get away from so much light. Well, that's interesting, particularly given we're in the business of, enlightenment, awakening, illumination. I'm sure we have dark and mystery and plenty, but as I was kind of thinking about all this, I thought, well, it'd be a pity to waste this almost solstice brightness. And so what's happening to be in that kind of brightness? And as you might imagine, there are koans about this. There are koans about everything. It's great, actually. It's a very generous tradition in that regard. And it's a pity because most of the time people write about Zen, they don't write about the koans very much. They just write about the parts that you really can't talk about, so it just gets incredibly boring. But you just see it, There's a koan for absolutely everything. And with the day and night thing, it's very much how, in this koan, this main koan we've been sitting with, we have all the decay and the loss of plenty, but we have the brocade and the Tarrant deep as indigo, and I think what you realize, it's like day and night, they're not in any way separate. They just bleed into each other over and over and over again, like birth and death, over and over and over again, day and night, over and over and over again, waking and sleeping over and over and over again. And you might have your preferences. There's a guy I read about once who somehow had trained himself to stay completely conscious through all of his dreams and all of his sleep and all of his waking, and I just thought, why? I mean, cool, fine, but why? It's nice to sometimes just have, the lights out. Whatever. So the Zhaozhou seems to be hanging out with us this retreat, as much as he's not the feature necessarily. And I guess I want to say one more thing first about the dark and light. I guess what I was noticing, so much of what the light makes possible is seeing the 10,000 things. The detail and the specificity and the uniqueness and the particularity and the night just makes everything, it draws you back into the source. It brings everything back to one. And that's part of the incredible intimacy. But I think what happens, and this is the same with the silence and the speech, is that those two start to bleed into each other. So that you begin to see, no matter which of the 10,000 things you look at, it contains the whole of everything. You can feel it more than you can see it. You just see any part of the universe that you keep any kind of company with. It just completely fills you. Right, silence in the dark, I like that. So Zhaozhou in this koan asks, Touzi, what's it like when you've gone through the great death and then come back to life? Enough decay, I say. What's it like when you've gone through the great death and come back to life? And Touzi says, I don't accept walking around at night. You have to get there by plunging into brightness. And when I first read this koan, I really had resistance for the same reason I have resistance to so much. Because I like the dark and the mysterious and the more sort of intuitive feeling my way with things. And there's something sometimes quite confronting about really just having to look. And it feels like a lot of what we've been doing this retreat, when all that self and knowing and attachments and, all the things we've been talking about falling away, you don't mind seeing anything because you realize it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with you. You're just seeing it, even if it's appearing in you. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with you. It's just the universe appearing. And there comes to be an objective and unbiased way that you can then welcome whatever appears into the daylight. You can plunge yourself without wanting to hide back in the, or obscure things, or gray them out, or soften them, or put an Instagram filter on them, or, whatever way you might want to soften or disguise or obscure the truth. You can just see it plain. And I can feel this in a lot of people I talked to today. I noticed almost everyone that I talked to, there was some version of like shackles starting to come off and space starting to open up, because the constraints and the active forces of the self, even if they were still present. Someone sent me a great text because we were having a chat and they completely undercut themselves, like just as habit, and then sent me a text and said, I realized as soon as I said it, it was complete crap. That's just what I do. I make myself less than as a habit. And that's starting to be the plunging into brightness, that I can just see it and not have to have the, oh, now let's do this thing, and oh God, and maybe I need a different technique, and just, there that is. There's me creating this self. It's fine, actually. And we begin to see, so we see ourselves tremendously more clearly. We see reality tremendously more clearly. You see, Joan, what did you call it? The funnel bush? There's a magic, amazing red bottle brush, thank you. Bottle brush, whatever it is, it's the universe. If you want to see the universe, go down and see the bush. You can stay there as long as you wish. It's very generous. And it just sort of, again, just fills you. You realize, oh, that's me. Buzzing and zooming and flowering and breezing, and you're right inside of it. And the other part of what it means to really see is things just are what they are in this type of consciousness. And there's a few great passages in this case I must share with you, because it gives you a flavor. So a student asks Touzi, what is the way? Touzi replied, the way. What is Buddha? You guys are catching on quick. The student asked, how is it before the golden lock is open? Open. How is it before the golden rooster has crowed? That's good, now we know. His reply was, the sound doesn't exist, but You guys are so good. How is it after the rooster crows? Each knows the time for himself. So try it. You know. You have been plunged into daylight. You know for yourself. And this is getting into the way that we make things so complicated so often. Why didn't that person call me back? Because they didn't call me back. Why didn't the teacher see me today? Because the teacher didn't see me today. Why didn't I sleep last night? Because I didn't sleep last night. You can see so much just comes to rest on that part that just wants a reason and a theory and a plan and an identity and a whatever. It just, no. And oftentimes what happens is you do start to know things, but not from the same place. You realize, oh, I was actually more upset than I realized I was, or that I wanted to be. Or I was, I don't know. I was more hopeful about something than I realized or that I wanted to be. So everything starts to be illuminated, but not at the consequence of all that condemnation and editing and judgment, and things just get clear. And it helps with other people too, because you can just see, oh, that there's deception present. Or there's overwhelming desire for approval present. Or there's just things that appear in the universe. And you don't have to think, what's wrong with them or what's wrong with me, or we need a plan to fix this. You just see, oh, there it is. And then I have more freedom to just respond. I can't do that right now. Or I'm sorry you're having a tough day. Or whatever it is. I'm plunged into brightness. And it's also brightness that it's not really antagonistic to mystery, which is a relief to me. I'm pro-mystery. But really that you know that there are things that are a mystery that you don't know yet. Someone said something wonderful to me today. She's working on the original face, Koan. And she said, well, even my children, they just appear in the universe. I don't know who they are, where they come from. How do I even know where how would I possibly know? And when the constraints, again, starts at, this is the great death, the constraints of what I think I'm supposed to be, or if I'm doing it right or wrong, or whatever it is, start to fall off. Weird shit just appears, and you don't have to be, you don't have to account for it. You just and there's another great piece in this, in Yuanwu's introduction, that he says, when you're unattached to society and transcend its norms, this is a massive part of the Great Death, because pretty much all the ego things are related to what will people think, or what's the right thing to do, or whatever, all the things. We don't need to repeat them, you know them very well by now. So when you're unattached to society and transcend its norms, manifesting great abilities, walking on thin ice and running on the edge of a sword. So you're just sort of, you're moving freely, but not with any certainty. You're like a unicorn's horn, a lotus blossoming in the fire. Only then do you recognize people who transcend convention as being on the same path. So you recognize other people who are weird like you. This also came as a great relief to me. And don't know, I remember being in the DMV once in the school and saying to me, your license will come by mail, and I don't mean M-A-L-E. And I loved her so much because I just thought, who talks to you at the DMV like that? And she was tickled with herself. She was great. And when you start to get free yourself, you're not worried about are other people doing what they're supposed to be doing or not. Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing or not? Things just appear in you, like that terrible joke that she told me, which God knows how many times she said it, but it was great. And I don't know, songs appear in you, notes appear in you, dance steps appear in you. We have someone who sits with us who's quirky. And somehow he ended up in an office, and this woman had a ballet bar that she must be doing exercises, and without saying a word, he just walked in and started doing ballet with her. I said, yeah, you can come to PCI, come to us. Which then, of course, you think, oh God, am I not weird enough to be here? No, you're conventionally unconventional. It's okay. You get free. And you also just start to, part of the plunging into daylight, you just start to know things without trying. You watch people and you think, is now a good time to talk to them or not? And you don't think, well, but I promised, or they said, or you just know. You can tell. Because you can just look and see, oh, they're stressed. And you don't have to even make it about yourself. They look like they don't want to see me. Oh, they must, they just look like they are not ready right now. I can see. And I guess part of that, let's see if there's anything in this before I put it away. Anything? Oh yes, this part. This is the last one. You must let go with your hands as you hang from a cliff. Trusting yourself and accepting the experience. Afterwards, you will return to life again. And you hang from a cliff edge pretty much like, a few hundred times a day. If you're lucky, if you're trying to keep a tight rein on things, you won't get very many cliff edges, but then you'll be, troubled, suffering, tight, small. But that cliff edge moment, you just think, what am I going to say when I go into Dokusan? What am I going to say if I meet someone and I don't know them? Should we talk or not talk? Should we? But you can just see. You can just feel. And it's also not you. Jung said this great thing, sort of about this daylight thing. He said, when people say I'm wise or a sage, I cannot accept it. A man dipped a hat full of water in a stream. This is him. He just dipped a hat full of water in a stream. What did that amount to? I'm not that stream. But most people find they have something to do with it. I do nothing. I never think that I am the one who must see to it that the cherries grow on stalks. I stand and behold, admiring what nature can do. And this is part of seeing too, is seeing I'm not doing it, whatever it is. I may be trying to effort so hard that I get all cubist. I like that word. That's a good, I think that's your word actually. I think that might be a Cindy word. that I stole many years ago. Yeah, you might think that it's you and it's up to you and it's whatever it is you. And then you just realize, no, something just arrives if I can bear to give it any space whatsoever. Just harder than it seems, but I think we're getting the hang of it. And it's nice to just experiment. It's fun to experiment. It's one of the things that often gets left out of Zen. It's terribly fun. Once you get through all the ick and all the, which takes a while, I'll admit, and it comes back, and I mean, there's all the things, but even the ick starts to be kind of fun. I was, recently I had a moment of just like white hot rage. A lot of people have been talking to me about rage this retreat. It's very interesting. I don't think, rage is interesting because it has a part that is absolutely deluded. That you think the world is doing me wrong, but there's a thread of it sometimes that is very much prajna, that it actually sees something that it's trying to make okay and it's not okay, but it thinks, oh, but I can't. And part of it is just a sword that's wanting to act in the universe. You think, oh, but I can't, that wouldn't be compassionate, that wouldn't be, whatever. But even the rage I could feel and the profound disturbance was kind of interesting and alive and exciting. And that's part of the seeing. I can see I'm a little out of control right now. And I can see that I can't entirely see clearly everything that's going on. And I can see I should probably just lie down and wait. And then I could begin to see more and more about what was happening. I could begin to take things apart and let them reveal themselves. And that's part of the waiting, the plunging, so that things can show themselves. What else? I had a thought, but it just scampered off. Hold on. I guess that's it too, that we begin to, as we're plunged into daylight, we begin to see our life differently, like even the past part. You see things more clearly and in ways that are less attached than before. And in the same way as all this other reality that can then just reveal itself, things just start to get more objectively true about the way they were, and they have less purchase on you. You don't have to explain them, you don't have to account for them, you don't have to make up for them, you don't have to, and if you do, that will become clear too. If you need to say something to someone, or if you need to let go of something, the daylight just starts to illuminate everything. So I think that may be all I have to say right now. How about you guys? Do you have any discoveries or questions or
I like what you said about the white hot rage. I experienced recently myself, and I never ever would have considered the possibility that it includes some prajna, but it actually, in my case, it really did reveal a lot of things. One, it revealed that I was extremely stressed in the moment, which I didn't know. And two, it revealed that I was working way longer than I should have after hours. It took a phone call I knew I shouldn't have accepted. So I just lost on the phone. But I didn't actually realize it myself. My partner pointed out to me that I was being very unrealistic, and it revealed, in hindsight, it revealed all these things that I wasn't allowing myself to experience.
Yeah, that's great. I think things will, said this a little bit the other night about the hidden face, but reality will just continue to offer itself. And if we refuse it in any way, it will find a new route via out of control rage or being sick or getting hurt or, and so it's nice to just see, oh, that doesn't have to be a mistake, but I can see the conditions of it now much more clearly and maybe be wiser next time.
So I have two images to share that are very much part of this light turning to dark and dark turning to light. So I'm camping up the stairs and way off to the left, up top there. And last night, walking back up there, it was nearly dark. I had my headlamp on, and I'm walking on the trail, and I see something shining in my headlight, very, very bright. And I thought, it looked like someone had dropped a diamond ring or something. Very, very reflective. And I went up closer, looked, and it was a spider. And it was the eye of the spider reflecting my headlamp so bright that it looked like a jewel.
It was.
And so this morning, on the way down, a little after 5, it was also at that. There was some light, but I still needed my headlamp. And almost in the same spot, there were 2 jewels looking at me. The same super bright, reflective. And it was a deer. And I walked very slowly, turned my headlamp down low. I could still see its eyes. And I started talking very softly to it. And I got from here to here from it, like almost couldn't quite touch it, but that close. And it just stayed still, kneeling down in the grass, looking at me. Never gotten that close to a deer like that. And then I stood there, and slowly it just stood up very calmly, it looked at me, and turned around, and it just walked off into the bushes. So tonight,
Tonight the whole universe will be jewels. Thank you, Lewis. That's the spirit. What else? If anything. There's that delicious silence again. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.